Well, the college football season has officially ended for the Pac-12, and really the only thing that changed was that the Earth made another full rotation around the sun. I could beat the dead horse and just make fun of this conference this whole video, but my goal is to explain what went wrong this year and also see if the Pac-12 is moving in the right direction, while still making fun of the conference, of course. Arguably the biggest problem the Pac-12 faces is out-of-conference success. While UCLA and Oregon pulled off big upsets early on against LSU and Ohio State, at the same time you still got Washington out here losing to Montana. This year, the Pac-12 ended with a 9-23 record against foreign conferences. They also only had two teams finish in the top 25, Utah and Oregon, which is just, that's not good.
Owen.
6 of those losses came against the superior West Coast Conference and the Mountain West, but the real killer was Brigham Young. BYU played 5 games against the Pac-12 and won all 5 games. And before you ask, no, they aren't in the Big 12 yet. As if it couldn't get any worse, Pac-12 teams still have to partake in the archaic tradition of playing other teams in the same conference. And just like usual, it was a bloodbath. The most notable games were every game Oregon played in. Oregon decided to live on the edge and give their fans cardiac arrest every week, and then they finally collapsed against Stanford, and then re-collapsed against Utah. But as Oregon collapsed, Utah rose like a phoenix. Not really, but here's the graph I made of their seasons. Wait a second, why is BYU here? Even though Utah ended strong, it was still Oregon that had the only shot to get into the annual Bama Beatdown Festival solely because they have the name recognition. Whether you're a 6-6 MAC team unsure of how you got a spot in a bowl game, a Utah State team that is forced to play its third-string quarterback, or just a completely broken Oklahoma squad, you're probably going to be holding up that trophy at the end of the game. If you couldn't tell, this is all just a very sarcastic way of saying the Pac-12 went 0-5 in bowl games. In fact, they haven't won a bowl game since Justin Herbert beat Wisconsin in the Rose Bowl in 2019.
Oregon.
If you want to sell weed.
So look, at this point you probably have some questions. Like, is there a significant talent gap in the Pac-12? Why do I even care about the well-being of a conference? Why won't Oregon bring back the Roboduck mascot? Unfortunately, I don't have all the answers. But as far as the talent gap goes, there is some validity to it. Even Commissioner George Kliavkoff admitted that, quote, "We have a size disadvantage with our offensive and defensive lines. We need to recruit bigger, stronger, faster kids on the line of scrimmage." Now, while I wouldn't exactly call Kayvon Thibodeau undersized, he's definitely the exception and not the rule in the Pac-12. Not to mention the fact that Pac-12 recruiting boards look more like the end of my first year coaching the Barrow Whalers than a group of Power 5 teams. At the end of the day, recruiting wins championships, and you're going to need a great staff, a great head coach, and a hell of a lot of NIL money now to win them over. Well, funnily enough, that's yet another problem, because in 2021, the Pac-12 continued its coaching turnover woes. Let's start with Washington State's Nick Rolovich. To put it shortly, tensions kept increasing throughout the season due to Rolovich's unvaccinated status, and on October 18th, he was finally fired. Moving on to The Washington, Jimmy Lake's daddy-dominant coaching style made headlines after he shoved a player, and shortly after, he was fired. Sources tell me that he still will enjoy his $9.9 million buyout. In a refreshing change of pace, Mario Cristobal didn't have a massive scandal revolve around him. Instead, he needed a permanent vacation to Miami to alleviate the stress of having to coach in the Pac-12 longer than 3 years. Down in SoCal, Clay Helton was fired after the L to Stanford, and the USC AD finally took Matthew Dama's advice.
Fortune favors the brave.
So, the Pac-12's purgatory sentence continues, but my severe Stockholm Syndrome, alongside years of delusion from watching too many 2007 Cal highlight videos, still has me hopeful for the future. Here are some things I'm looking forward to. Even as a certified USC hater, Lincoln Riley's hiring could single-handedly bring the conference back to relevance. But there's no rush, of course. I'm also looking forward to seeing Utah and Oregon play, as both appear to have very strong teams on paper and have the opportunity to prove it with Week 1 games against Florida and Georgia respectively. And I'm also just excited to see what star players will emerge after the departure of guys like Kayvon Thibodeau, Greg Dulcich, Trent McDuffie, and Devin Lloyd. But on the other hand, college football's inevitable playoff expansion has been delayed until 2026. And don't forget that the conference still can't renegotiate its media rights until 2024, which still means you're going to be having to watch those 7 p.m. primetime games on the Pac-12 network. So yeah, it's a mixed bag still, but I think that George Kliavkoff's focus on basketball and football has this conference trending in the right direction. I mean, we've waited this long just to see Larry Scott fired, so what's another couple of years to see some bigger changes? So to sum this all up, I just have one last thing to say. The California Golden Bears are going to the Rose Bowl, baby. Woo!